Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I'm a 17-year-old guy from Texas, born and raised on corn and southern hospitality. Back home, people called me a teddy bear because I'm usually pretty easygoing, but when someone crosses the line, I can turn into a drill sergeant real quick. My parents decided to transfer me to Tokyo to get me away from some bullies who were making my life hell back in Texas. It was supposed to be a fresh start, and honestly, I was excited about the change. Drawing characters from video games started as a hobby when I was younger, but I got pretty good at it over the years. I wasn't taking commissions yet because I wanted to perfect my style first, but I loved sketching in my free time. So there I was at the Starbucks in Tokyo with my girlfriend having what I thought would be a peaceful afternoon. She was playing Genshin Impact on her phone while I worked on a drawing of Kiking, one of the characters from the game. The coffee shop had this nice, relaxed atmosphere, and we were just enjoying each other's company. I was really getting into the details of the drawing when this young boy, maybe around 10 years old, walked up to our table. He looked at my sketch pad and his eyes lit up. He complimented my drawing and then asked if he could have it. Now, I'm used to people complimenting my artwork, and normally I might consider giving away a sketch, but this drawing was really detailed, and I'd been working on it for hours. Plus, like I said, I wasn't doing commissions or giveaways at the time. I politely told him in Japanese that I couldn't give it to him, but maybe next time. The kid seemed to understand and thanked me before walking away. My girlfriend and I went back to what we were doing, and I continued working on my drawing. About 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps approaching our table again. When I looked up and saw the boy again, but this time he had backup. Standing next to him was a woman who looked like she was ready for war. She had that look in her eyes that screamed trouble, and she was staring directly at me. The woman spoke to me in perfect English, which caught me off guard since I'd been speaking Japanese with her son. She accused me of saying no to her son about giving him a drawing. I figured I'd try to handle this diplomatically. I apologized and explained that I didn't do commissions at the moment, but offered to give her my phone number so she could contact me when I was ready. I was trying to be helpful while still maintaining my boundaries, but apparently, reason wasn't on the menu that day. Karen completely rejected my offer and demanded that I give her the drawing right now. She said it loud enough that other customers started looking over at us. My girlfriend looked up from her phone with a concerned expression. I felt my Texas upbringing kick in, but I tried to stay calm. I told her that she would not yell at me and that my girlfriend and I would be leaving. I wished her a good day and started packing up my art supplies while my girlfriend began gathering her things. We were just trying to leave peacefully, but apparently Karen had other plans. When we headed toward the door, I heard some commotion behind us. I turned around just in time to see Karen grabbing a cup of steaming hot coffee from someone's table. Time seemed to slow down when I realized what was about to happen. She threw that scalding coffee right at me. My reflexes kicked in from all those years of dodging bullies back in Texas, and I managed to jump out of the way. But my girlfriend was right behind me, and she got hit with the entire cup of burning hot coffee. The sound she made still haunts me. She screamed in pain and collapsed to the floor, clutching her arms where the coffee had hit her. I completely lost it and started yelling at Karen, calling her a crazy witch and demanding to know what she was thinking. I threw my hat on a nearby couch and started moving toward Karen, but first I signaled to a Starbucks employee to help my girlfriend. She was still on the ground, and I could see the coffee had burned her pretty badly. But Karen wasn't done. Instead of showing any remorse for what she'd just done to an innocent person, she walked right up to me and punched me square in the eye. The impact was so hard I stumbled backward, seeing stars. While I was recovering from the punch, she grabbed my sketch pad right off the table and bolted for the door. She actually thought she could assault two people, steal my property, and just walk away like nothing happened. But here's the thing about Japanese police that I learned that day. They don't mess around. Karen barely made it 3 steps outside the Starbucks before we heard this blood-curdling scream. Through the window, I could see her face down on the sidewalk with a police officer on top of her pinning her to the ground. The cop had apparently been walking by when he saw her run out of the coffee shop like a maniac. He took one look at the situation and immediately called for an ambulance when he saw my girlfriend on the floor inside. I was so angry I wanted to walk outside and give Karen a piece of my mind, but one of the other customers held me back. Another person retrieved my sketch pad, which was still in perfect condition despite everything that had happened. The paramedics arrived and treated my girlfriend for her burns while the police took statements from everyone in the coffee shop. Multiple witnesses had seen the whole thing and the security cameras had captured everything. When the officer ran Karen's information, it turned out she had 4 previous felonies on her record. What she did to us that day, the assault with the hot coffee, and the theft of my artwork counted as 2 more felonies, bringing her total to 6. The legal process moved pretty quickly. We pressed charges, of course, and with all the evidence and witnesses, it was pretty much an open and shut case. Karen ended up facing serious jail time, especially since this was a pattern of behavior for her. My girlfriend recovered from her burns, though she had some scarring on her arms for a while. I had a black eye for about 2 weeks, but that was nothing compared to what she went through. I was 26 when I had my daughter, and like most new moms, I was desperate for adult interaction. The sleepless nights and constant feeding schedule had me feeling pretty isolated. That's how I ended up joining this mommy yoga class at the community center. I know it sounds cheesy, but it was actually a lifesaver. I met some really great women there, and we'd often grab coffee afterward to chat about everything from diaper brands to how to survive on 3 hours of sleep. This particular afternoon, I'd gone to yoga with one of the other moms I'd met there. We decided to stop by this little coffee shop downtown afterward. My daughter had just finished nursing and was completely knocked out in her car seat. I thought it would be the perfect time to actually have a conversation with another adult and maybe even drink a hot cup of coffee for once. I was on my second cup reading some news on my phone while my friend went to the bathroom when this woman and her kid walked in. The little girl looked to be about 3 or 4 years old. She spotted my sleeping baby right away and came over to our table. The kid said something sweet about how cute my baby was. I smiled at her and went back to my phone. Kids are naturally curious about babies, and I didn't think much of it. But when I looked up again, this little girl was reaching into the car seat, trying to pick up my daughter. I panicked and told her no several times in a row. I jumped up so fast I nearly knocked over my coffee. The woman, who I assumed was the kid's mother, finally looked over from where she'd been ordering. The mother said her daughter wasn't hurting anything. Then the kid announced that she wanted to hold the baby. I explained to the child that my daughter was sleeping and that she was too little to hold her because babies are heavy. The mother insisted I should just let her kid hold my baby because her daughter was very mature. This woman was seriously suggesting that I hand my infant over to a preschooler I'd never met. I told her that my baby wasn't a toy and the answer was no. The woman called me a jerk for refusing. I asked her to repeat what she just said. That's when things got really crazy. While we were talking, the kid had kept trying to grab my daughter, and she finally managed to jostle the car seat enough to wake her up. My baby started crying and I immediately picked her up to comfort her. I told the woman to look what she'd done and demanded that they leave us alone. The mother kept insisting that her daughter just wanted to hold my baby. Then this woman did something I still can't believe. She actually reached out and tried to grab my baby right out of my arms. I pulled back and turned away, trying to shield my crying daughter. I yelled at her to get back and leave us alone, but she kept saying I should just let her kid hold the baby. She kept trying to get to my baby, reaching around me and grabbing at her. I was holding my daughter tight against my chest, and this crazy woman was literally trying to take her from me. I screamed for help. That's when I did it. I turned around and hit her square in the nose with my open palm. It wasn't a punch exactly, but it was hard enough to make her stumble backward and start bleeding. The coffee shop employees came running over immediately. One of them got between us while another called the police. The woman was holding her nose, blood dripping between her fingers, and her kid was crying. One of the employees told us the police were on their way and that we both needed to stay there. The bleeding woman said that was good because I had assaulted her and traumatized her child. I found a quiet corner and started nursing my daughter to calm her down. She was still upset from being woken up so roughly. The woman then screamed that I was exposing myself to a child and called me a disgusting name. I ignored her. My baby was more important than this woman's ridiculous accusations. The police arrived about 10 minutes later and separated us to get our stories. The officer asked me to tell him what had happened. I explained that the woman had tried to take my baby from me and I was just protecting her. The crazy woman was telling the officer her version, claiming I'd exposed myself and assaulted her unprovoked. I was terrified they were going to arrest me. But then the coffee shop manager spoke up. The manager told the officer they had security cameras and he could see everything that happened. 20 minutes later, after reviewing the footage, they arrested the woman for attempted kidnapping. I had to give a statement and was told I'd need to appear in court, but I wasn't in trouble. The officer explained that I had every right to defend my child. A few weeks later, I was coming home from the park with my daughter when I saw a delivery man on my porch. He looked confused, checking house numbers. I asked if I could help him. He said he was looking for me and had a package. He handed me a thick envelope. When I signed for it, he ripped off his fake mustache and delivery hat. The man told me coolly that I was being sued and wished me good luck. I stood there in shock. Inside the envelope was a lawsuit from the woman who'd tried to grab my baby. She was suing me for $25,000 in damages. According to the papers, I'd broken her nose and she wanted me to pay not only for the medical bills, but also for cosmetic surgery to fix what she called her pre-existing issues. She was also claiming emotional damages for both her and her daughter, saying they both had anxiety and post-traumatic stress because of me. She was suing me for slander because I told people she tried to steal my baby. At the end of the paperwork, she said she'd be willing to settle out of court if I dropped the criminal charges against her. I took the lawsuit straight to a lawyer, who basically laughed when he read it. He said the judge would throw it out, especially after the criminal trial. He was right to be confident. The criminal trial was 3 days long. I was nervous walking into that courtroom, but I had my husband with us for support. We'd left the baby with his mother since she was 8 months old by then and probably wouldn't sit quietly through a trial. The woman entered with her lawyer, and if looks could kill, I would have been dead on the spot. Right when the judge was starting proceedings, her husband and daughter burst through the doors, making enough noise to wake the dead. The judge asked her how she pleaded to the charges of attempted kidnapping, first-degree assault, disturbing the peace, and disorderly conduct. The woman launched into this long speech about how she was completely innocent and outraged to be accused of wrongdoing. She went on about being a proud American and supporting justice. The judge looked fed up and told her to sit down. She tried to protest, but he told her to sit now. She sat down immediately. The prosecutor's opening statement was simple and to the point. He explained that the woman had tried to take a baby from its mother and that everything was caught on camera. The defense lawyer, on the other hand, spent 40 minutes talking about what a wonderful person she was, soccer mom, church member, homeowners association president. It was ridiculous. During a break on the second day, the woman's husband approached mine at the coffee stand. He started by asking how my husband was doing. My husband said he was fine. The other man said the whole situation was crazy, and my husband agreed. Then the man said that his daughter would suffer if her mom went to jail, and that wasn't good for a kid. My husband said that was rough, and he was sorry. The other man suggested that my husband could tell me to drop the charges to do what was best for the kids. My husband said he wasn't going to do that. The man kept pushing, telling him to be reasonable. My husband replied that if his wife had been reasonable, we wouldn't be in court at all. That's when the other man got angry and called my husband a terrible racial slur before storming off. My husband came back and told me what happened, and I was even more convinced we were doing the right thing. When I testified, the defense lawyer tried to make me look like the aggressor. He pointed out that I was the first to raise my voice and suggested that made me the instigator. When I tried to disagree, he cut me off. He asked if the defendant had struck me during the incident. I admitted she hadn't exactly struck me. Then he asked if I had struck her, and I said yes, but tried to explain why. He interrupted me again and told the jury that I had admitted to being both the instigator and the aggressor. When the woman testified, she told a completely different story. According to her, her daughter had simply complimented my baby, and I'd started verbally abusing the child. She claimed she suspected I'd kidnapped my own daughter and was trying to rescue her when I viciously attacked her. On the third day, we got the verdict. She was found not guilty of attempted kidnapping. The jury didn't think there was enough evidence that she actually intended to take my baby permanently, but she was found guilty of assault, disturbing the peace, and disorderly conduct. Her sentence was 18 months of probation, 40 hours of community service, 30 hours of anger management classes, and $7,300 in fines. If she violated her probation or didn't complete the requirements, she'd spend those 18 months in prison instead. I was satisfied with the outcome. She had a criminal record now, and everyone could see that the court had sided with me. The civil lawsuit she'd filed against me was thrown out completely after the criminal trial, just like my lawyer had predicted. When my daughter turned 7, she became obsessed with martial arts movies. She'd watch them for hours, practicing kicks and punches in our living room until I was sure she'd break something. After she accidentally knocked over my favorite lamp trying to do a spinning kick, I figured it was time to channel that energy somewhere productive. That's how we ended up at Master Kim's Karate Academy. The place was exactly what you'd expect from a commercial karate school. They had all the bells and whistles to separate parents from their money. First, there was the mandatory uniform purchase, a crisp white GI that cost more than some of my work shirts. Then came the sparring gear, protective padding, and eventually a wooden staff for advanced forms. Of course, none of this could be bought piecemeal. Oh no, you had to sign a full-year contract up front. My wallet cried, but my daughter's excitement made it worth it. She threw herself into karate with the same intensity she'd shown for those movies. Every evening after homework, she'd practice her forms in the backyard. She memorized every detail her instructor taught her about respect, discipline, and proper technique. Her dedication was honestly impressive for an 8-year-old. The school held seasonal tournaments at the local high school gymnasium. Students from different schools would compete in various age brackets, sparring against each other and performing their belt-level forms called kata. These tournaments were a big deal. Families would pack the bleachers, and kids would spend weeks preparing. For the kata competition, there were very specific rules about respect and protocol. Students had to approach the marked square on the gym floor, stop at the edge, bow to the judges, and formally request permission to perform their form. Only after getting approval could they enter the ring. Then they'd bow again, perform their kata, bow once more, and back out of the ring respectfully. Miss any of these steps, and you'd lose points regardless of how well you executed the actual martial arts moves. My daughter studied these rules like she was preparing for the bar exam. She practiced the entire sequence over and over, making sure she had every bow and every step memorized perfectly. I was proud of her attention to detail, even if part of me wondered if she was being a little too serious about it all. Tournament day arrived, and the gym was buzzing with nervous energy. Kids in their crisp white uniforms were warming up while parents found seats in the bleachers. My daughter's age group had about 20 competitors, and I could see confidence and anxiety on their young faces. When her turn came, my daughter approached the ring with perfect composure. She stopped at the edge, bowed deeply to the 3 judges, and clearly asked for permission to perform her kata. They nodded, and she entered the ring, bowed again, and began her form. Was her kata perfect? Honestly, no. Her punches didn't make that sharp snapping sound that comes from years of practice, and her stances weren't as deep as some of the other kids. But she performed every movement with focus and respect, never rushing, never forgetting the sequence. When she finished, she bowed properly and backed out of the ring exactly as she'd been taught. I watched the other competitors with interest. Some were clearly more advanced in their technique, throwing crisp punches and executing clean kicks, but many of them forgot the respect portions entirely. Kids would run into the ring without bowing, forget to ask permission, or turn and dash out without the final bow. A few even started their forms before the judges gave them the nod to begin. After all 20 kids had performed, The judges huddled together for what felt like forever. Finally, they called all the competitors to line up in the center of the gym. They announced third place, then second place. When they called my daughter's name for first place, I nearly fell off the bleacher. She stood there with the biggest grin, holding her trophy like it was made of pure gold. That's when I heard the voice behind me. A woman was loudly complaining that this was complete nonsense and that her son should have won. She went on about how his kata was perfect and how you could hear his GI snap on every single punch, unlike that girl who won. She gestured angrily at the judges, saying she couldn't believe they gave first place to someone who clearly didn't deserve it. She mentioned that her son had been training for 2 years and knew what he was doing. The other parents around her were shifting uncomfortably, giving her stares. Some started moving their kids away from the scene she was creating, but she wasn't done. She stood up and started making her way down to the gym floor, where parents were taking pictures with their kids and chatting with the instructors. I watched her walk straight to the judges' table like a woman on a mission. Even from across the gym, I could hear her voice getting louder. She demanded to talk about their judging and accused them of giving first place to the wrong kid. One of the judges tried to calm her down, saying if she had concerns about the scoring, they could discuss them reasonably. But she wasn't interested in calm discussion. She called it robbery and kept insisting that her son's GI made perfect snapping sounds, which proved his technique was right. She claimed that my daughter barely made any noise at all. The judge tried to explain that the kata competition wasn't just about technique, but also about respect, following protocol, and overall presentation. This made her even angrier. She said it was ridiculous that karate wasn't just about martial arts and bowing. She even claimed her son could beat half these kids in a real fight. The conversation was getting heated enough that Master Chen, the tournament organizer and owner of our karate school, came over. This guy was in his 60s, built like a tank, and had the kind of presence that made unruly students instantly behave. He'd served in Vietnam and had been teaching martial arts for over 30 years. If there was anyone who understood both respect and how to handle difficult people, it was him. He asked if there was a problem, and the woman immediately launched into her complaints. She told him there was a huge problem, and that the judges didn't know what they were doing. She demanded that he take the first place trophy away from my daughter and give it to her son. Master Chen told her that he had been running tournaments for 25 years and the judges had scored based on established criteria that included respect, protocol adherence, and technical execution. He said the judging was fair and final. She refused to accept this. She told him she didn't care about his criteria and demanded that he change the results immediately. She wanted him to take the trophy away from my daughter and give it to her son where it belonged. The entire gym had gone quiet. Everyone was watching this woman demand that an 8-year-old be stripped of her first place trophy. Master Chen's expression darkened and he told her that wasn't going to happen. That's when she decided to take matters into her own hands. She spun around and walked toward where I was standing with my daughter, who was still clutching her trophy and looking confused about why some lady was yelling. She pointed at us and demanded that we give the trophy to her son right away. She claimed my daughter didn't deserve it and that her kata was terrible. She said my daughter had no business winning anything. My daughter looked up at me with wide eyes, not understanding why this stranger was being so mean to her. Several other parents had gathered around, creating a protective circle around the kids. I told her that wasn't going to happen. I explained that my daughter had earned that trophy fair and square. She got even more upset, asking how my daughter could have earned anything when she could barely do karate. She insisted her son had been training longer and was obviously better. She accused the whole thing of being fixed. She was practically screaming now, pointing at my daughter and continuing her rant about how unfair everything was. That's when Master Chen reappeared with 2 other instructors. He told her she needed to leave immediately and that security would escort her out. She protested that he couldn't kick her out because she'd paid for her son to be there. Master Chen told her that he absolutely could kick her out. He said she was banned from this tournament and all future tournaments. He also said she was banned from entering the dojo, and if she wanted her son to continue training, she'd need to arrange for someone else to drop him off and pick him up. She insisted he couldn't do that, but he told her he absolutely could, and just had. He explained that karate was about respect above all else, and she'd shown none. He said her son was welcome to continue training, but she wasn't welcome there anymore. The security guards, actually just a couple of the teenage assistant instructors, moved toward her. She looked around the gym, apparently expecting support from other parents, but everyone was either staring at her in disgust or pointedly looking away. She started shouting about discrimination and threatened to sue everyone. She said they'd all hear from her lawyer, while she stormed toward the exit, continuing to shout threats over her shoulder. The gym stayed dead silent until we heard the door slam shut behind her. Then slowly, conversations resumed, though everyone was still talking about what had just happened. I looked around for her son and spotted him sitting on a bench near the wall. The poor kid looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I walked over and asked if he was okay. He told me he was embarrassed and that she always did stuff like this. He said he'd told her the judging was fair and that my daughter had followed all the rules better than him. I told him he'd done great out there and not to let what happened take away from that. He thanked me and apologized for what his mom had said to my daughter. He said it wasn't cool at all. Master Chen came over and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. He told the kid that his mom's actions didn't reflect on him and that he'd shown good sportsmanship that day, which was what mattered in karate. The kid nodded, looking relieved. One of the other parents offered to give him a ride home, and Master Chen said he'd call the boy's father to arrange future transportation. My daughter kept her trophy and continued training at the school for another 2 years. We never saw Karen again, though her son kept coming to classes. He turned out to be a really good kid, respectful, hard-working, and genuinely talented. He won several tournaments after that, always with his dad or grandmother cheering him on from the stands. A few months later, Karen had tried to enroll her son at 3 other karate schools in town. Word had gotten around about the tournament incident, and none of them would accept him while she was involved. She eventually had to drive 40 minutes to the next town over to find a school that would take them, and even then, she was banned from entering the building. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.